Hi, everybody, and good evening, of course, or morning. Hope everyone's doing well, and thank you for watching again. So, definitely appreciate that. I wanted to do, I know I say brief a lot, but a brief video, and then I'll try not to talk too much. But I had some really interesting thoughts I want to share on just humanity, so us as human beings. And I was kind of pondering the question with all these. Um, I've been thinking a lot lately about just aliens and technology. It's been a big interest of mine. So I've been reading a lot and asking a lot of questions and trying to put together um, a greater understanding of well, everything as usual, but like all there is. But us as humans, I was thinking, what is our ultimate goal and ultimate achievement? And I thought it was a really question. I wanted to put that out there, and challenge you to think about that. And I think it opens up some really interesting questions as far as where we're at and where we can possibly go. So now there are some basic truths to life, and there are some realities that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, as humans, we do have to eat and rest, for example, and we have to deal with health and shelter. And these sorts of things. We've been making amazing advancements in the past couple hundred years or so, just as far as communication, travel, health, and knowledge about our health, like sleep and what we eat and that sort of thing. But ultimately, there's just a handful of categories, if you think about it, that what is our ultimate goal to get to? And is it even possible? So, and it really touches on some interesting possibilities. So, and we're just starting to explore this now as far as advanced understandings of life, communication with other worlds, and also the possibility of harnessing zero-point energy. So I'll get to that more in just a second. But and then, of course, the ultimate category that balances out life, of course, is death. The terminal condition that we're all going to face, that we all share, that we all have in common. So, what is our ultimate goal in achieving health and that sort of thing? Can we, and how far can we stretch out our lives? Like, how long can we make ourselves live, in other words, as technology gets greater and greater? And the amazing thing is, that's why I call my channel Infinity Now, because infinity is provable conceptually, both physically and non-physically. And so, therefore, anything can be conceptualized by building a theory and of course, has to put into practice, that sort of thing. But really, so there is never-ending possibility, both physically and non-physically. And I try to come up with examples and ways to illustrate that as I learn about it in my videos as well, and share what I know. But as far as us as humans, so it kind of all comes under the banner or topic of resources, being knowledge and materials. So, because that's what we need to continue to expand these different categories: health, travel, communication, understanding of life and death. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So we all share the fact that, we're going to die. So is there a way to study this? Yes, there is, and to apply it. And it's been done, which I find amazing, in other civilizations, from what I understand. So, but the key to this possibility for ultimate human achievement lies in resources, like I was saying. So, I mean, where do we get infinite material to build things, to travel, or to plant new vegetables or raise new animals? And can hunger be eliminated? Do we even need to do that? can we reach a state where technology is so great that we sustain ourselves through other means, like just taking supplements each day. So, but it all comes back to where are we going to get the materials from? And so now, with the idea of infinite space, remember, space is eternal. It is a self-evident, self-proving concept that is self-evident and kind of, what's the word? It's called an axiom, something that is cannot be proven otherwise, basically, a fundamental truth. Space, if you remove any concept and any quality other than simply space, and there's absolutely nothing, you can go in any direction forever. So, because remember, if you bump into something or there's a boundary, then there's something on the other side of the boundary. You can't run into a boundary because that means that boundary consists of something other than space, like pressure or heat or anything like that. But it all starts with eternal nothing. You can literally, if there's absolutely nothing, it's never ending. You keep going. That's the space-time continuum, because you never run into anything. How could you? It's impossible, because if you do, then there's something there, and what's on the other side of that something, And like, does it end? It's impossible, because if you say there's a boundary and there's nothing on the other side of it, like, what do you mean by nothing? And you're like, there can't be nothing. Like, what's containing that nothing? Like, it's one of those things that you think about and kind of blows your mind. Me, anyways. So now we're just starting to realize the potential, I think, in the past few decades. And there have been people who have talked about 0-point energy. Nikola Tesla. There have been some people too. I remember this too. About 20 years in the news, there was a guy who built a car that ran on water, and it used the same, I think, idea or mechanics of sourcing 0-point energy. The government's made it illegal. A lot of people say, "Oh, this is the government," and people wanting to stay in power and stay rich. That is, it's not an evil agenda. Everybody on Earth wants free energy, and it's possible. And infinite space is alive with energy. So, in other words, no matter where you go, there's a very, it has a property of energy that exists within it. And if space is infinite, this energy, which is part of it, is also infinite. So whatever you want to call this, it is there. And so we could literally tap into it. And it's like reverse engineering the Big Bang Theory. Okay, so you go all the way back to the beginning. It was like this energy somehow, something caused it to interact. And then over time, eventually it built up energy, heat, pressure, over and over, and this exploded, and then just all the stuff settled in and evolved over time. So, but it all came from a single point of energy. So if we can track back to that and source it and literally recreate the elements of the Big Bang, which I understand they have tried to do before. There's like labs in Sweden. There's places around the world that have tried to recreate this God particle, they call it. So I think is one word for it. But if you can recreate that, you can literally understand the unfolding process of evolution and then create life and materials, both organic and not inorganic. You can create anything that was a result of evolution. So you're harnessing the very source of everything, and you can just basically create from it infinitely. It's very interesting because it almost sounds godlike, doesn't it? It's like once we understand this ultimate level of technology, and we're getting there, we can do these sorts of things. Now, it's not some grand conspiracy to, because they want to keep us under control and that sort of thing. To a certain degree, it's okay. We'll look at it this way. This is how I view it. So it's not like there's evil rich people in power, trying to control the masses. Infinite energy is great. It would take a massive shift, of course, in our economy and the way that we live and what people do in their free time, and like it would rearrange life as we know it for positive. But here's the thing: who gets their hand on this level of ultimate technology first? The good guys or the bad guys? And there's always, good versus evil on the world stage, and who, the influence of freedom over oppression. So if you can imagine, say like Russia and China and North Korea and their allies got their hands, they were the first to develop infinite 0 point energy and weaponize it, and that is possible too. Then, you know, this thing has to be slowly understood and slowly harnessed and allowed to be utilized by all, but there has to be some kind of stable agreement within geopolitics for this kind of happen. And it's just kind of thing to happen. It's just like one of those things. It's not going to happen until, funny enough, we understand things like death and the afterlife, because ideology and freedom and what happens after we die, and capitalism and communism, these are things, very real things that we have yet to solve amongst ourselves as humans. So if we understand this and come to a greater understanding of existence, we can all use this sort of thing for all our benefit. So harnessing 0 point energy to create everything we need for healing. We could, ultimately, surgery wouldn't have to be so invasive. We could just literally basically just replace our body parts. And, it sounds fantastic, but if you think about it, it's true. We've achieved, there's more and more higher levels of travel and communication. We're in outer space now, and it's like the medical field has come a long way in the last couple hundred years, and we're still understanding it. If we can find ways to, create longevity with every physical property, every chemical, every piece of everything that we're made up of, and maintain certain levels of health and eliminate disease when it comes up or before it even happens. This ultimate level of technology, it's a long ways off, of course, but it's possible. Physical immortality is absolutely possible. I don't think we're not going to see it in our lifetime, but ultimately, the idea is there, and I find that really fascinating. So, and then we can use this to travel at higher rates of speed, and through different dimensions as well, physical dimensions that are real and totally exist out there. So, and of course, we'd have to learn to be responsible with ultimate energy. Once you harness the very understanding and how to create anything you want physically, this knowledge, of course, can be used for oppression and, the few at the top who control the many for whatever ideological reasons, or it can be used for the benefit of all. So, infinite technology and possibility can ultimately destroy everything or enhance everything, to put it simply. And of course, what would bring, and I've talked about this in other videos, what would bring us together the most? The understanding of this thing called death. It kind of blows my mind that out of everything we disagree with on earth, and religion's a big one, why don't we start to further our understanding of what happens when we die and communication with the afterlife? If people can do it, and there are varying degrees of people who believe in that sort of thing or not. I definitely understand that, but that's the point. And that's what I do with my channel, is try to practice these abilities, let people know anyone can do it. But above all, we can use technology eventually to harness this ability. If I'm a physical being with the presence and awareness of my soul and my mind and how this communication process works, we can create artificial intelligence to also do the same thing and streamline, just like a computer, and start interacting with the afterlife daily through technology, and then get information that is streamlined and accurate at high levels of accuracy and data downloading and that sort of stuff. And this level of knowledge of the interaction, if you can imagine, if we're able to do this at all times, everything would change. Everyone would understand. People in the afterlife would teach us everything there is about how things work and what happens when we die, and it would change everything on Earth. And there's no more questions, there's no more guesswork, there's no more, conflict. It's a very idealistic, but it's reasonable, but it's complicated, and it's a long ways off, and it's possible, but I think it's cool stuff to think about. So, and on a final note, just to let you know, there are extremely old civilizations out there who have achieved these things, from what I'm told. And these are some of the aliens that we've been coming in contact with over time. So they have achieved physical immortality. Doesn't mean they can't die, but they are able to live as long as possible. They can still be killed, but like all of us, our spirits live forever. So they're not like invincible. But they have achieved things like perfect health and travel and sourcing 0-point energy for peaceful purposes. And these are some of the beings that we're starting to come in contact with. If you watch like all the news stories or you Google it in the last few years, and it's coming to a head too. And I think we're going to see more and more of that over the next few years, like 10, 20 years. Ultimately, people in my lifetime, I think, who are alive within the next 20 years or so, are going to finally see evidence of life from other dimensions and planets. And I think it's pretty cool. So, well, there you go. It's sorry, it's a lot of the same stuff that I've talked about before. I just wanted to kind of look at it in a new context, as far as what are we trying to do? Like, as humans, as we continue to evolve, what would be our ultimate goals? And that would be it, to understand the source of life, master it physically, and then master our understanding and interaction with everything non-physical to achieve this ultimate level of knowledge and experience. And cool stuff to think about, I think so anyway. So I hope you enjoyed that. And, of course, if you have any comments or questions or ideas or thoughts or anything, just let me know in the section. And I challenge you and encourage you to go out there and read about this kind of thing or think about it. I think it's really cool, and it can kind of open up new channels for thought and experience and interaction, and sharing amongst others. I think is great. So, well, there you have it. Thanks again. I appreciate you watching, and wish you well as always. And an upcoming Happy New Year. Wow, it's the end of the year. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.